Hi, welcome back to our online preparation course for the TOEFL test. In this module, we are going to start getting prepared for the grammar section of the test. This video is divided in two sections. The first part, we are going to be talking about general information about this section. On the second part, we are going to talk about parts of speech. So, if you are ready, let's start. Okay, so let's start with general information about the grammar section. How many sections are there in the grammar section of the TOEFL test? There are two sections, Section A and Section B. In Section A, which goes from question 1 through 15, you have to fill in the blanks in order to complete the sentence correctly. In Section B, which goes from question 16 through 40, you have to find the mistake. How many questions have to be answered in this section? You have to answer 40 questions, and it is important that you really answer 40 questions in the time that is given. How much time is given to answer this section of the test? 25 minutes. As I previously said, it is important that you answer the 40 questions in 25 minutes. How much time should you use to answer each question? Approximately half a minute. As you don't have lots of time to answer each question, it is important that you try to answer as fast as you can and do your best. Okay, so now let's review parts of speech. We know that there are 8 different parts of speech: noun, adjective, verb, adverb, pronoun, conjunction, preposition, and interjection. A noun is a word that names a person, place, or thing. There are different kinds of nouns. For example, common nouns, proper nouns, concrete nouns, abstract nouns, collective nouns, countable and uncountable nouns. In terms of common nouns, we have examples like boy, city, they. They are common. Proper nouns have to do with nouns that have names. For example, names of people or names of countries or names of days of the week. For example, Stephen, Africa, Monday. Concrete nouns are nouns that can be seen, things that can be touched. For example, dog, coffee, tree. Abstract nouns are nouns that cannot be seen, words that cannot be touched. For example, happiness, time, humor. Collective nouns are the ones that give you the idea of a group. For example, team, family, government. It is important to mention that even though collective nouns give you the idea of a group, the verb is going to be as in the third person. For example, the team is complete, or my family is united. Countable nouns, for example, computer. Uncountable nouns, for example, water. If you notice, computer has a plural, computers. That is what makes it countable. You can count computers. Water, on the other hand, cannot be counted. That's why it is an uncountable noun. So, if you notice in the sentence, the artist nervously searched the museum for his painting, you have 3 nouns. What is a verb? A verb is a word that shows action or a state of being. And there are also several kinds of verbs. Action verbs, transitive verbs, intransitive verbs, auxiliary verbs, modal verbs, dynamic and stative verbs, regular and irregular verbs, and phrasal verbs. Action verbs, for example, run, dance, listen. Transitive verbs are the ones that take an object. For example, I love pizza, I respect my teacher, I believe in God. Intransitive verbs are the ones that do not take an object. For example, I walk, she laughs, they run. Auxiliary verbs are the ones that help create negative sentences, questions. For example, do, does, did, have, has, had, am, is, are, in different tenses, of course. Modal verbs are the ones that change the intention of a sentence. For example, will refers to future, can refers to ability. And like those, we have several, like for example, would, could, may, might, must. Dynamic and stative verbs, for example, dynamic, study, and stative, understand. Regular and irregular verbs, for example, regular, study, because the past tense and the past participle is studied. And irregular, understand, because the past simple and past participle is understood. And phrasal verbs, for example, give up, get along with. There is a special section of this course in which we are going to be talking about phrasal verbs specifically. An adjective. An adjective is a word that describes or gives more information about a noun or a pronoun. There are different kinds of adjectives: descriptive adjectives, quantitative adjectives, demonstrative adjectives, possessive adjectives, interrogative adjectives, distributive adjectives, and articles. Descriptive adjectives are the ones that you use to describe things. For example, beautiful, tall, nice. Quantitative adjectives, for example, one, many, have. Demonstrative adjectives, for example, this, that, this, those. Possessive adjectives, my, our, its, for example. Interrogative adjectives, for example, which, what, whose. Distributive adjectives, each, every, any. And well, articles, we know that we have three: a, an, and the. An adverb is a word that describes a verb, an adjective, or another adverb and tells where, when, how, or to what extent. For example, James strolled arrogantly into the dance. In this case, arrogantly is describing the verb strolled into. There are different kinds of adverbs. For example, adverbs of manner, adverbs of place, adverbs of time, adverbs of frequency. In terms of adverbs of manner, right? For example, happy, nicely, angrily is the way that you do something. Adverbs of place, here, outside, inside. Adverbs of time, tomorrow, yesterday, now, for example. Adverbs of frequency, always, never, usually, sometimes, etc. A pronoun is a word used in place of a noun. A pronoun is going to replace a noun. For example, she would like it better with sprinkles, right? Maria would like his ice cream better with sprinkles. So, Maria is replaced by she, and ice cream is replaced by it. There are different kinds of pronouns. Subject pronouns, object pronouns, possessive pronouns, reflexive pronouns, relative pronouns, indefinite pronouns. In terms of subject pronouns, they are the ones that replace a subject. For example, I, he, they. Object pronouns are the ones that replace the object. Me, her, us. Possessive pronouns, for example, mine, theirs, yours. Reflexive pronouns, for example, myself, himself, themselves. Relative pronouns are the ones that we use in relative clauses, for example, who, that, whose. And indefinite pronouns, for example, everyone, anything, someone. A conjunction is a word that connects groups of words or words, right? For example, I enjoy rock, hip-hop, and jazz, but not classical music, right? If you notice, there you have two conjunctions. And and but. And each of them has a different use. For example, and, you are adding information, but you are contrasting information. And there are also different kinds of conjunctions. For example, coordinating conjunctions, subordinating conjunctions, and correlative conjunctions. And, but, so, yet, nor, for example, are coordinating conjunctions. Because, after, since, if, etc. are subordinating conjunctions. Either or, not only, but also, such, that are correlative conjunctions. A preposition is a word that shows the relationship of a noun or a pronoun to another word. And there are different kinds of prepositions. Prepositions of time, prepositions of place, and prepositions of movement. Prepositions of time, for example, at, on, in. Of place, at, on, in again, because they can also be used for place, under, behind, below, for example. And prepositions of movement, through, across, into, for example. An interjection is a word that expresses surprise or a strong feeling. For example, wow, that was the best movie I have ever seen. Wow is an interjection, and there are different kinds of interjections. For example, for greeting, for joy, for approval, for surprise, for grief or pain, for farewell, for doubt or hesitation. For greeting, we have interjections like hey, hello, hi. For joy, we have hooray, wow, hurrah. For approval, like well done, bravo, brilliant. For surprise, what? Ah, eh. For grief or pain, for example, as, ouch, ah. For farewell, goodbye or bye. And for doubt or hesitation, ah, right? So each of these interjections, right, has a different usage. Okay, I want you to look at this sentence, and according to the information that we covered about parts of a speech, I would like you to label each of the words with the part of a speech that each word is. You have the sentence, learn these useful words, and you can understand more about the language you are studying. So, take some minutes. If you want, you can pause the video in order for you to label each of these words with the correct part of a speech. Okay, so we have two nouns, words, and language. We have several verbs, different kinds of verbs. For example, learn is an action verb. Can is a modal verb. Understand is an irregular verb, for example, right? Are is an auxiliary verb. And studying, well, is a verb in the present participle. This, useful, and the are adjectives. More is an adverb. You is a pronoun. And is a conjunction. And about is a preposition. Okay? I hope you were successful in this exercise. Okay, so now it is your turn. As I told you, learning these words is very important. Why? Because they can be the key in order for you to answer the section correctly. Go back to the model, do the exercises, and see you next time.